even though the bots will be out there, when the marginal cost of labor comes really, really low down and you're really rich, if you want to be that guy who builds a ship and flies to Jupiter just to see what the hell's out there, go for it, dude.
Right.
There will be those adventurous people who are like, yeah, I want to do that. That's cool. Let's try
Yeah.
it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Big Future. Glad to have Dr. John Gibb, Dr. Know-It-All. He has a great YouTube channel. And we're going to discuss a crazy far out future with many, many humanoid bots, but how that could, totally transform civilization if things happen. So great to have you here, John.
Thank you. Yeah. And if you haven't watched the last one, watch the last one. And if you think your mind was blown by that one, get ready. It's
Yes.
going to be even more blown.
We talked about how AI compute and inference could transfer all over and leverage Teslabots. But we're going to discuss more about the Teslabots. So people who don't know, Tony Seba, a great analyst consultant and also a futurist, laid out, it was called We Are the Horses this time, and basically saying how last time when we had horses and carriages, that around 1905 to 1920, the world transformed from almost no cars to almost all cars, from a lot of horses, drawn carriages to almost none. And that human bots will be that for labor, that we're going to go from human labor with some machines to, with over about 20 years, to almost all humanoid robots.
Right.
Well, like he didn't say Tesla, but it'll likely be Teslabots. And he talked about 1 billion bots per year. And he said that the value, the cost of labor go down by 10 to 100 times. So 1 to 2 orders of magnitude. And that would be the driving economic force for this transformation. So my point, though, is that before that point is reached, which could be 2040, something like that, 2040s, is that we have a nearly fully automated factory. That would take 15,000 people in a gigafactory now. And that if you go to 20,000 Teslabots and then drop the number of people down to 1,500, that unlocks a nearly exponential increase in our productivity. And that if you get rid of the learning law, the other limitations here by, say, putting it onto a fully reusable starship, and some guy has one of those soon, then if you send a fleet of starships over there with, many Teslabots and the machineries to do mining and to build the factory, that you would fairly rapidly be able to fully replicate the factory and supply chain. And that if the doubling time is every 2 years, one factory becomes 2 factories, one mine becomes 2 mines, or whatever, then within 10 doublings, you've got 1,000 times more. Within 20 doublings, you have 1,000,000 times more. So if it was 2 years per, that'd be 40 years, have 1,000,000 times more. If it's at 1 year, within 20 years, have 1,000,000 times more. And those factories can be making Teslabots, gigafactories, starships, and the mines. And that if I'm not fully exponential and replicating at that point, if I only need to send 1% of what I was using, like the chips or something, then that becomes far easier to feed a far larger civilization. So that's the basic thesis. Why don't we discuss that? So, and reactions and comments there, John.
Well, I think I'll start. I think we should circle back to Earth, but I really love talking about space travel and stuff. And I just came across I think it's fairly old actually, but the Mr. Beast episode where he put 2 strangers in a room for 100 days, which is 3 months ish. A spaceship trip to Mars is about 6 months, so about double that length. And those 2 people were going pretty much off the wall by the time they got, and that's not including the return trip or the time that you're there or the danger and the stress of being in space. Humans are incredibly poorly suited to doing something like colonizing Mars. So I think it's really cool. I hope that we send human beings there to just go not the UN flag, something like that, right? Not America, whatever, but just to go like humanity, we did this. But clearly the entities that will populate our solar system and then maybe the galaxy are going to be bots first. They have to go out. They have to build the nice, pretty places for us. All of that kind of stuff, so that when we arrive, it's like, oh, all the comforts of home. Cool, it's already there. And the other piece of it is that maybe you could fit 100 people in a starship. I think that's pretty optimistic. For a trip like that, probably more like 20. Uh, so that's not a very many people, but you can cram that sucker full of Teslabots, right? You put them to sleep, you turn off the power switch, and they don't care. 6 months, they just wake up and they're there. And also, we don't have to worry about if cosmic rays hit 10% of them and knock them out of commission and they're just done and they don't wake up. Cool, whatever. They're actually raw material. Awesome. We'll use them. So, Soylent Green. But this is all where humans are just terrible at this stuff. Bots will be so much more. People are like, oh, it's going to take 150 years to colonize Mars. I don't think so. If we send out, just like you're saying, if we send out waves of like 1 million of these Teslabots with the raw materials and the especially with the factory equipment, the diggers, the chemical, what am I looking for? Furnaces, to smelt iron and all that kind of, if you send them with the right equipment, they'll just build it for you.
Right.
And you take a loss rate of 10% of these things per year, and then you just send a whole bunch more. So they, as they die, they drop off and the other ones keep going. And then you have a civilization way faster. That's the cool. I mean, what an amazing future that is.
So, two comments I have about that.
Yeah.
One is that, yes, I'm also agreeing with my thesis is a bot heavy colonization effort where basically everything's pre-made. In terms of going with humans to Mars in particular, is that one, you can go there faster than 6 months by using a higher acceleration thing. You can do a different orbit and then get there in as little as actually 45 days. If I'm willing to,
but that assumes some technology that doesn't really exist.
No, it doesn't assume technology. It assumes if I have 5 starships going together. So then,
so you're using it as like a
staging, so that I use the fuel but then I don't need to do that. So one technically can do it without expanded technology, just by a virtual staging thing with multiple starships and or go 20% empty. I transfer the fuel over. It's got more fuel. It can go in at that higher, hotter speed, and then still slow down at the end of it. So it's basically, the problem right now is that you use up too much fuel, so that I have to save a bunch at the end, and I can't go in as hot and as fast as the ship allows. But if I have more fuel, I can get up to full speed and then decelerate from full speed with a reload of fuel, another stage, and then I can come in and do that. So minor point. And then the other minor point would be that humans going to Mars, radiation, all that kind of stuff, again, going big, like 1,000 starships, something like that, I have extra volume to basically, my analogy is Tom Hanks in Castaway had a really difficult time, making his little raft ship and going across the ocean. But if you go in a big cruise ship, then I can have all-can-eat buffets and eating, and then everything's very comfortable, right? So if I have enough volume with my stuff and have all this like 2 meters of water surrounding the people, then the radiation thing, and then I don't have to sweat going there fast, because I can just I can have my rotating thing simulating gravity and do this. Anyway, so those are technical points around it, but still far easier for bots to go. We're agreed totally on that point.
Yeah, and I was taking a worst case scenario. I didn't want to, obviously you can, and there's a it's fission drives, but it's driving out hydrogen out the back of the thing, so you can do stuff like that where you can do it faster. Nuclear engines, but so yes, but I was just talking about like if we wanted to do it today with a starship without doing anything fancy, but irregardless, you're talking about at least a 2-year mission with humans, because you have to wait for a good window to open up to come back again. So it's a long time, and that's a lot of resources humans need. And we're tender. Our psychology is tender. We're like, oh, I don't want to be alone for all this time. It's going to suck. So, so I'm just saying that bots are the obvious answer, even if we could do it way faster than what we can right now.
In terms of like building all the facilities so that my city's made, I've got all the fuel production, all the oxygen production, everything's buried. It's the landing pads are all there. Like no risk, like none of this, the Martian thing where, like you're going in there. It's like, it's I have my moons, a Mars city all built out, ready to go.
Right.
I'm teleoperating, I'm doing stuff. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just far better to have the bots make everything in terms of
Yeah.
all this stuff. And then replicating out that if you do all this stuff and take over Mars, I can then send a million starships all over the solar system and then build up everywhere. And there's like all the asteroids, all the moons, all these stuff in the Kuiper belt. There's like hundreds of thousands of Death Star or larger objects out there to be colonized.
That's a good metric. Death Star size.
Yeah, Death Star side, 100 kilometers or bigger.
Right.
There's like 300,000 out in the Kuiper belt, just beyond Pluto. And so, all things that are like, yes, they're like barren, icy rocks now, but if I toss in some nice, nuclear power generation and a bunch of facilities with a bunch of bots and everything, then it's all there to be utilized and mined, right? So instead of the science fiction things of like the hard human mining thing, it's like the Teslabot doing the mining and the building. Yeah.
And obviously it wouldn't be the Teslabot that we've seen because it would be a hardened version of that. So, probably look a little more military with a lot more like plating and stuff for the elements. But I think it's worth dialing it back because people are probably like, yeah, but how are we ever going to get there? But part of the reason we can get there is because if we get, like what Tony Seba said, if we can get the marginal cost of labor close to zero, then we can afford to build 1 million starships. Like it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. we'll just have the bots do that. It's not like it's costing half of the GDP of the United States to do that. It's just like, whatever. It's extra stuff that doesn't even matter. So we can do it. We can afford it. And that's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. But so yeah, dialing it back is that the takeoff points are, can Tesla fully get up to 90%, 99% automation in a Tesla factory, and if they can, this level of exponential things start taking off. That we can the physical limitations start getting decoupled. Is how decoupled are you? 90%, 99%, and then sending it other places. How automated is it? How decoupled? And it's the autarky, basically how autonomous is your colony from supplies that I'm sending over to you, and at that percentage level. So going to fully automated, fully exponential civilization, all limits are off. We just doubling, everything's happening.
Right.
But if it's it won't be there initially. It'll be a transition phase, which could be 20 years, 100 years, where we're going from, just like the March of Nines for FSD robotaxi of like how safe it is. It's the March of Nines of like how autonomous are we completely on these stuff? How much can we get to unlimited production? And decoupling from economy, because if we have an economy that's limiting us from doing it, the physical aspect may not. Like we have 1 billion tons or 100 million tons or 1 billion tons of steel per year, which is enough for 1 trillion Teslabots. So if we have that level of steel production on Mars, that would be the limiting amount that would happen.
And before we started recording, we were talking about, I was thinking about the fact that everything that slows construction down here, the people living in the tree houses, the zoning stuff, the not in my backyard, none of that stuff exists on Mars. You just grow, right? Because there's nobody there who's saying like, hey, this is my property. It's like, no, just do it. Make this thing. So, yeah.
And the people who are saying, hey, I don't like you doing that, they're like 100 million
They're
miles
on Earth. away. Yeah, exactly.
Shaking their fist at the, hey, I don't like that. It's like,
And also, it sucks that there's no water on Mars, but it makes it so, because the landmass of Mars is actually, I think, as big as the landmass of Earth, if I remember correctly, because so much of Earth is underwater. So you've got a contiguous. So imagine like how would a virus in a bacteria in a petri dish grow? There we go. It goes like that. And what you could imagine is this thing just growing organically in a way, just like out from a center point or multiple center points coming together and creating a beautiful sort of fractal thing that doesn't even exist on Earth, which would be really cool.
Right, and you have a planet-wide production capacity that could then,
Yeah.
besides
Yeah.
just expanding, you can send whatever products that we want
Right. You don't
back
have to go
to
over the
us.
oceans. You don't have to figure out even how to fly. Actually, if you want to fly, it's easy because there's so little gravity. You know, just
Right,
build big balloons, fill them with hydrogen, whatever, fly them around. So
right,
yeah,
right. And the yeah, so then it's that unlimited, it uncaps, civilization. That basically, we're
right.
limited right now with resources, with other things, and that one, we can move all the polluting stuff out there, all the dangerous stuff out there, and
Right.
it's just sending products back to us. Okay, I have a delivery time, but it's whatever we need from
Yeah.
those other
And
worlds.
let's not forget about the moon, because the moon is, even though the delta V of getting to the moon is almost as much as getting to Mars, because of the fact that it's a vacuum, it's way closer. So you can
Right,
send a mix of humans and robots in the near term easily,
right,
right?
right.
People going to Mars, that's hard. People
Mm.
spending 3 days going to the moon and then 6 months, 2 months, whatever on the moon, then coming home, that's easy.
Right,
And
right.
then so you can do a mixed labor situation and sort of ratchet it up and figure out how you're going to do the Mars thing when you get
Right.
there.
Well, you
Yeah.
you definitely wouldn't develop moon like Elon's talked about making a moon-based alpha there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they've how much water do we have on the moon? It might be like 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools now. And we haven't really
Right.
looked, right?
Yeah.
So once we dig in and look, there could be a lot of other things there. And if it's just water, then one we can fully utilize it. You could definitely have
Right.
10,000 people, 10 million bots there. It'd be a good test case to learn how to do Mars when support is only 3 days away, or
Right.
or already just there because you can fully develop it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
And I mean, people might be like, oh, there's not that much useful on the moon, but that's not true, because what you were talking about is moving. This is sort of Jeff Bezos's vision. He wants to do it in orbit, but I'm like, use the moon. Put the
yeah,
heavy industry, the steel industry, the polluting crap, put it on the moon, because it's hard to get there, but it's easy to get back. So
yeah,
you can build stuff like, just if it's raw material, just big steel ingots and stuff, shoot them into space on a rail gun or something, and they come back and they burn, they come back into the atmosphere, catch them, take them to the factories. So you can do a lot of the nasty, dirty work on the moon. And we know there's
right,
no life there. No problem.
right,
Nobody's going to complain. There's no little green men there.
right. And we need to learn how to do it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
going
Yeah. Yeah.
there is either we've already done it before,
Right.
and then we can keep doing it. And that would be yeah, also the time delay, if I need to teleoperate, would be like
Yes, exactly.
a little over a second versus several minutes
Right.
to go to Mars.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
is 100 times easier time, everything doing it on the moon. And we can get to
Yeah.
a serious scale doing it there,
Right.
like 10 million
And we
watts,
can
100
test
million
out
watts.
the 3D printing of buildings, all that kind of stuff. Everything
Right,
you need to figure out how to do on Mars, you can do 3 days from here. That's
right,
that's nice. That's
right,
that's
right,
very convenient. We're
right.
actually very lucky. Most places in the solar system don't have moons that are that big compared to the size of look at Mars. It's got two little tiny rocks. It doesn't
Yeah,
have a big old moon there. So yeah.
right. And then also things like building out the science aspect of things, like giant observatories on the dark side of the moon, so they can then search, our solar
Yeah.
system, search other parts of the galaxy. Um, all of it is, worth doing in orbit, on the moon, on Mars. We shouldn't be, if we have thousands of starships, and SpaceX is looking to produce, I think, a factory of Raptor engines of like 5,000 a year. I think currently the
Right.
production is more like 400 to 300. Basically, they need to make
So they got
a
a 10x it basically. Yeah.
10x, but they have the factory there to do it. So then that would be able to do 100 starships and boosters every year
Right.
by doing about 40-ish engines
Yep.
per year. And then they can, once they have that production ramp up, they can go
Right.
up
Well,
higher.
but again, let's not forget that Teslabots could eventually help building those too, right?
Right,
You
right.
can build out factories where you can make more of these things. So let me
Yeah.
let me throw a fly in the ointment here, because I personally am fairly convinced that we are going to discover life on Mars under the surface, maybe in the
Okay.
ice. So what happens then? Because all of a sudden it is in my back. It's like, do we just crush all these things and go like, oh, well, tough to be you, we're taking over? Or do we try to respect them? Do we create sanctuary areas? The problem is the likelihood is they're going to exist where there's water, and we're going to want that water. So we're going to be competing with the bacteria that lives there, or viruses, or whatever the hell it is.
Well, one, we don't preserve all bacteria on Earth. And
no,
so,
but these are special. I mean,
these are special.
I understand keep it in a reserve, but yeah.
So then you would, if we say, okay, 10%, 20%, whatever, some large percentage, large preserves of like, for the science, for the inquiry, we don't want to like, maybe there's some, useful.
Yeah, we don't want to blow that either, because it's like, holy crap, it's the second data point. We actually have another life. Right. We don't want to be like, oh, we had it, but then, oops, we killed it. So,
right. Although I'm of the belief that this panspermia, where basically is that if you hit, Earth or Mars with a big asteroid, comet, or something like that, and then it sends rocks out flying, the life would still be on it, and then it would be alive. So then our life and Mars life, microbial.
But how cool would that be? Because it's quite possible that life came from Mars first. It might have been habitable before Earth. So it could have been Martian life. We might be Martians. But I would love to know that too. I mean, if we find out that the DNA is similar, like way back at the beginning, it's like, oh, there's our what's that called? Luca or something, whatever, something common ancestor. But anyway, if we find out that there's actually DNA in this stuff, and it's similar to like the original life that we found on Earth, that's huge. That's incredible.
Right. So it is useful scientific inquiry. So then you have to do the survey pretty darn fast, because if you're sending, say, starships, 2026, 2028 over there, and then sending the next fleet of 1,000, you would include far more scientific rovers, Cybertruck, 1,000 Cybertrucks to dig around and figure stuff out along with superchargers over there. So they can do a pretty thorough analysis of what's going on. If you bring like bigger scientific equipment to sample the water, look for the microbes, do it in 10,000, 100,000 spots, 1,000,000 spots, in order to do a thorough search. And you could continue that search in parallel while you're doing the build out. Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree. I want to be cognizant of the fact that just like if we get to Europa eventually, it may be like we dig down and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a whole ecosystem down there. That'd be pretty cool to find out too, right? That'd be awesome.
Right. But the universe is so big, it's like you don't need to go like, even if we said, we started out the moon, we sent stuff over to Mars, we find the Mars life, right? If they okay, now we got to be way more careful and stuff like that.
Right.
It's a huge, Earth-side landmass, as you said, right? So figure out where we can do some stuff without messing up, whatever science needs to be done. So I think that can be should be a solvable problem. And I agree that we don't want to ruin key scientific knowledge that could be, extremely important, because there's plenty of dead places to go, do the build out.
That's why I said one of the advantages of the moon is we know it's dead. It's like, okay, there's nothing there. There's no life.
Right. Yeah. So it was an exciting future, and we'll figure that out. And in terms of like the timing of it, like NASA has funded SpaceX for like $3.5 billion to do a lunar lander. That's on the books. They're trying to target 2026. It may slip 2027, 2028. Going to Mars. It's once you have the reusable starships, which hopefully flies next month, and have a clean run. Once it's landing on here, the next year, hopefully, we're at some substantial scale on that, and then we're really off to the races on when these developments will happen.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that SpaceX has a skunk works right now is the next launch window, is it 25 or 26?
I think it seems to be every 2 years. So I think it's like one this year. I think 2026.
Yeah, so it's 26. So I would hope that they have a skunk works to have like say 10 starships by then, that they can just launch them in a fleet and try to land them, maybe 9 of them blow up as they're entering the atmosphere, but one actually lands, whatever. Just throw a whole bunch there. They don't have to have anything except for a few rovers, Teslabots, whatever, just to see and just to prove it's possible.
I think
I cross my fingers.
in terms of the scale, in order to do a 10 starship run, is that you'd
have to refuel a lot.
Yes. Yeah, you have the refueling a lot. So 10, 20 times per starship of refueling. Right. So if I have a fleet of like 15 starships, 5 doing the refueling stuff, and they're flying and landing, flying and landing. So the fact that I could do it every week means that I would, even just one, but you'd have redundancy, 2 or 3. I could then have that fleet. I think making a fleet of 10, 40 engines, 400 engines, they could do that. So basically next year, if they have everything solved, they could have it. Basically, they would have to start doing the prep late next year. And then they would have them fully fueled and ready in 2026.
Right.
And then,
but they could kind of do it one at a time. You get one done, you launch it early in the window. You get the next done, you launch it, because it's like about a 6-week window, if I remember correctly. So, you get one done, you launch it, you get the next done, you launch it, you get the next done, you launch it. And
right.
For the best.
So 5 or 6, if it takes a week to do each one, then or if you do 2 at a time, then you have your 10, and then you would have your fleet go there. So in terms of the cost to do it, if right now they may cost like $100 million each, basically engines and stuff like that. The cost, getting the engines down to like $500,000 or $250,000 each, then you're looking at $10 million of engines. It could be only $20 million, and then the flights, like 100 flights, $2 million. You could do it maybe for like $1 billion.
Well, and here's the thing. I know SpaceX is private. I know they don't want to have investors and stuff, but honestly, not a GoFundMe campaign, but like their own version of it. They just go like, want to throw in $10? Anybody in the world? You got 8 billion people on the planet. If 100 million say, I'll gladly throw in $50 to help you out, so they could kind of self-fund this in a way, just through public goodwill.
Well, the thing is, like, if they get the starships going, then they're currently launching 3,000 or so, 2,000, 3,000 of the Starlink 2 minis up to orbit.
And that could also pay for it. Yeah.
So then they're at $6 billion of that. So if they go to launching, with Starship, the volume goes up 10 times. So if I have a 200 launches of Starship or 200 launches of a Falcon 9, then I'm launching either 20,000, 10 times more of the small satellites, or go for the bigger satellites, the full.
This number is huge.
The version 3 full scale larger ones that are like 5 times the weight or something like that. Could also serve with more people. So basically, they'll have a full year of possibly, $50 billion, $100 billion per year of revenue. So their profitability and stuff, once they have a Starship going, the amount of money they'll have to, like, okay, and $1 billion to do this other thing. It's
I guess I was just saying, if they were concerned about the money, I have a feeling there are enough of us out there that would be willing to pitch in a small amount that it would work. And honestly, it'd be kind of cool, maybe they would have like a little disc or something where they would microscopically print whatever, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, like, I would love to be part of that trip. Like, even if it was just putting in a little bit of money, I'd just be like, that'd be pretty cool. I would feel good about that. I'd like, that's a thing I could spend my money on and be happy about.
I think both for the moon and for Mars being being just like a Patreon supporter or a YouTube subscriber. Here's the list.
They'll start their own Patreon and just get like these giant checks.
And then here's the video showing scroll of names, and then, hey, I'm at second 45. There's my name.
That'd be
so
cool.
definitely we need to do that. I also think that the having YouTube creator version of our future economy, that basically when people are going out to space, broadcasting from, and I'm on such location on Mars, such location on the moon, asteroid this, asteroid that, that would be a big part of it. Getting to blah 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 asteroid first, as opposed to
Yeah.
comment on this stream first.
Right. Well, or just, once these bots exist, you have the Moonbase Alpha YouTube channel or X channel. And
Right.
so it's like the X channel would be super cool, just a live stream of whatever the hell's going on. Just like, yeah, look there. and if the Optimi had like identifiers like numbers or little emojis on them or something, you'd be like, it's smiley face Optimus. I love that guy.
Right.
So
or also they could be like the NASCAR guys with all the patches and stuff. It's like wearing, I
they're just
sponsored my number
plastered Pennzoil and yeah, exactly.
And or names of like sponsored by Brian and Dr. Know-It-All. It's like
that would be cool. Okay, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's a monetization thing, but also it's something that NASA learned in the 60s was you got to have public buy-in, and it doesn't in the 60s it had to be public buy-in for money. In this case, it's partly money, but it's also just that you want to have the goodwill of humanity behind you. And it's not like a rah-rah US or rah-rah China or whatever. It's like, no, this is for the planet. This is something for everybody. Yeah.
Right. And it's potentially something that could uplift all civilization. Like I said, we can colonize the whole solar system and a million times the resources. It's like, we don't need to be fighting over any resources because we have the entire solar system to ourselves to fully develop. And it can happen really, really fast if we go exponential.
Yeah. I mean, effectively what we're talking about here is the von Neumann machines that he hypothesized in the 1950s that are self-replicating. As soon as they can go to a new place and build all the pieces that they need, the computer chips are going to be the really, really hard part. Because, the fabs that build the computer chips are incredible. But that I think will be the limiting factor for now. But computer chips are super light too. So you could send millions of them, out on a slow boat out to Jupiter or something, and they catch up and then they put them in. But assuming that they can build everything except the computer chips on site, they can start self-replicating. That's pretty cool.
Right. And not just they start self-replicating, it's basically that our civilization starts self-replicating, that we can then go to this million times more thing that, basically if you have 100 trillion Teslabots, that means that's enough for 10,000 for every person. So it's enough for an entire gigafactory of Teslabots. So every person can own the production of a gigafactory that we all could be as rich as Elon Musk is today, right? Because
crazy.
So we just shouldn't think about limitations. Basically, we have something in it for all of us to fully develop, and there's no reason to but I should stop you from having this or that. It's like then it goes to we all have enough, we all have all the production that we need, and we're all. It just the purpose is then the Star Trek future of like boldly going, hey, I want to go there too.
And think about, part of human nature. I'm going to get back to Tony Seba to maybe wrap this up in just a minute, but part of human nature is that adventurous thing. And we've kind of closed the planet down. It's like now you can go to the Marianas Trench or something, but somebody's already done that. Even though the bots will be out there, when the marginal cost of labor comes really, really low down and you're really rich, if you want to be that guy who builds a ship and flies to Jupiter just to see what the hell's out there, go for it, dude. There will be those adventurous people who are like, yeah, I want to do that. That's cool. Let's try it.
We're all
Richard
Branson.
Climb the mountains right now. Yeah.
We're all Richard Branson. We're all
Richard Bransons.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah. That is our future. We all have white hair. Be awesome.
So you wanted to roll it back to Tony Seba? You're mentioning that?
Oh yeah, because I was just saying that the whole what makes this possible is that right now we have a limited resource mentality, which is just always all the way throughout history. From the time we were like monkeys in trees, it's like there's only so much fruit. There's only so much place here. If you go down, you might get some other food, but the lion's going to eat you. So, it's been that kind of a situation. But if we can get to the part where we actually have so much labor that going like, I want to build my own rocket ship is something that a normal middle-class person can do. You or I could be like, yeah, I want to build a rocket ship. It's like right now, that's insane. It's like, oh, well, first, make $30 billion and now start spending it. But yeah, when it becomes something like that, it's an entirely different world. It is. It's very much like You said Star Wars, and like Star Peace. It's the Star
Yeah.
Peace world.
Right.
Droids everywhere. Humans are everywhere.
And then no fighting and no Sith. Yeah.
And no
Right.
fighting. Yes.
Yes.
Star Peace.
Star Peace.
So there
Yeah.
we go.
But a lot of droids. Yeah.
A lot of droids. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been great. We have to do it more often.
Yeah.
So people should like and subscribe, join John's channel, Dr. Know-It-All, my channel, Next Big Future, and we'll have all kinds of crazy discussions about like this in the future.
I think I need to have you on my channel sometime soon. We'll
Yes,
continue
definitely.
the conversation.
We will.
Super.
Okay.
Alrighty, cool. Thanks.
Talk later.